They felt it before you even opened your mouth. Something in the air shifted, and it started with you. And oh, I felt it from wherever I was sitting in the dark, grinning at nothing, waiting for someone, anyone to stop playing small. They noticed you, not the way flowers notice sunlight, the way a wound notices a blade. Sharp, sudden, impossible to ignore. I have been watching people shrink their whole lives, apologizing for breathing, folding themselves into shapes that fit other people's comfort. And then there is you. This morning, something cracked open inside you, and oh, it was beautiful. Not pretty, not polished. Beautiful. The kind of beautiful that makes powerful people grip their armrests a little tighter. The kind that makes rooms go quiet the moment you walk in. They cannot ignore you now. And the funniest part, is that you have no idea what you have just started. But I do. You woke up different. I could tell. Not because you combed your hair differently, or wore something sharper, or rehearsed lines in the mirror like some second-rate actor auditioning for a life that was always supposed to be yours. No. You woke up different because something behind your eyes finally stopped apologizing. And oh, that is the most dangerous thing a person can do in a world that profits from your self-doubt. I have watched them build entire systems around keeping you quiet, entire institutions, entire social rules dressed up as manners, as professionalism, as just the way things work around here. They hand you a script the moment you are born. Smile, shrink, wait your turn. And most people, most beautiful, tragic people, they read that script every single day until they die, having never once spoken a single line of their own. But this morning, you threw the script away. I remember the moment I did it. The moment I stopped letting the room decide what version of me was allowed to exist. You are too much, they said. And I looked at them, really looked. And I laughed. Not the nervous laugh. Not the apologetic, cover your mouth, please do not be offended laugh. The real one. The one that starts somewhere deep in the chest and rises slow, like smoke from something finally burning. Too much for what exactly, I asked. And they had no answer. They never do. Because here is what they will not tell you. The people who call you too much are always people who have never been enough. They are measuring you with a ruler they built to make themselves feel taller. And this morning you finally saw the ruler for what it was. A lie. A comfortable, collective, carefully maintained lie. Now here is where it gets interesting. Here is the part they are truly afraid of. It was not your anger that triggered something this morning. It was not your boldness, your volume, your refusal to shrink. It was your clarity. You knew exactly what you wanted. You knew exactly what you would no longer accept. And you said it, or did it, or simply became it, without flinching. That kind of clarity is what keeps powerful people awake at 3 a.m. Because anger they can manage. Anger burns fast and bright and exhausts itself. But clarity is patient. Clarity does not need an audience. Clarity waits. And now they are scrambling. I can see it. The quiet recalculation happening behind their polished expressions. The way someone who assumed you were furniture suddenly realizes you are the architect. They are replaying this morning in their minds the way you replay a chess move you did not see coming until it was already too late. When did this happen? They are asking each other. Oh, it did not happen this morning. This morning was just when they noticed. You have been building this for a long time. In every silence you swallowed and decided you would never swallow again. In every room you left feeling smaller than when you entered, making a quiet promise to yourself in the car on the way home. In every version of yourself you tried on to make someone else comfortable and felt the wrongness of it like a suit 2 sizes too small. All of that was not weakness. That was pressure. And pressure, pressure is just what diamonds feel before they are finished. You are not new. You are revealed. And there is a world of difference between someone who just arrived and someone who has finally decided to be seen. One can be dismissed. The other changes the entire shape of the room. Let me tell you something about the people who ignored you, not the obvious enemies. Not the ones who sneered openly, rolled their eyes in meetings, or talked over you like your voice was background noise in their very important lives. No, I'm talking about the friendly ones. The ones who hugged you at gatherings and whispered about you the moment you stepped outside. The ones who said, "Oh, I believe in you," and then quietly made sure every door stayed half an inch shut. Those ones. Those are my favorite kind of villain, because they do not even know they are one. I have met 1,000 of them, dressed in warmth, speaking in encouragement, performing support like it was a community theater production they had rehearsed for years. "We are rooting for you," they said, and maybe they were. The way a crowd roots for the underdog, not because they want the underdog to win, but because the trying is entertaining. The moment you actually start winning, the applause changes key. It gets a little thinner, a little slower, a little more careful around the edges. You felt it, did you not? That slight temperature drop in conversations that used to feel warm. The way certain people stopped asking about your progress right around the time your progress became undeniable. I noticed it too, and I will tell you what it means. It means you graduated, not from school, not from a program, from them. And graduation always feels like loss before it feels like freedom. Here is the twist. The part that used to make me rage before I learned to find it darkly, beautifully funny. They were not sabotaging you out of cruelty. Most of them were not even conscious of it. They were sabotaging you out of arithmetic. Your rise was a subtraction problem in their minds. If you become more, does that mean they are less? If you are seen, does that mean they become invisible? And rather than sit with that fear like an adult, rather than let your success inspire them, they chose the quieter, cleaner option. They adjusted the ceiling and called it concern. "I just do not want you to get hurt," they said. I know. But here is what this morning changed. You stopped needing their ceiling to feel safe. You realized, and this is the part that will haunt them longer than any argument ever could, you realized their concern was never really about you. It was about the version of you that was still small enough to make them feel comfortable. That version is gone now. You triggered something this morning that cannot be untriggered. And the people who built a quiet empire on your self-limitation are now holding blueprints to a building that no longer exists. I want you to feel something right now. Not anger, not vindication, something quieter, something colder, something more powerful than both. Pity. Because I have been the most hated man in every room I have ever entered. And I will tell you, from the very specific experience of someone who was discarded before he was dangerous, the people who underestimated you are not your enemies. They are simply behind. They are still living in the chapter where you were manageable. and you have already turned the page. So let them recalibrate. Let them have their quiet, anxious conversations about what happened to you, about where this came from, about whether you are still the person they thought they understood. You do not need to correct them. You do not need to explain yourself or soften the edges of your clarity so it sits more comfortably in their hands. Let them be confused. Confusion. Oh, confusion is just the sound an old story makes when reality finally contradicts it. And here is the part I find the most delicious, the most quietly, perfectly ironic thing about this entire morning. The trigger, the shift, the undeniable moment they could no longer look past was not something you did to them. You did it for yourself, completely, purely, without a single thought about their reaction. And that total absence of performance is precisely what they cannot forgive. Because people who have spent their lives managing impressions cannot comprehend someone who simply stopped. You stopped managing. You stopped curating the acceptable version. You stopped pre-apologizing for the space you take up and the light you throw. And in doing so, you became the most threatening thing imaginable to a person who has never once been truly, nakedly themselves. You became a mirror, and mirrors in the wrong hands are the cruelest weapons of all. There is a specific kind of silence that comes right before everything changes, not peaceful silence. Not the silence of a Sunday morning or an empty church or a field after rain. I mean the other kind, the held breath kind, the pressure behind the ears kind. The silence that hums like a wire pulled too tight just before it snaps. That silence followed you for months. And you almost mistook it for failure. I know because I lived inside that silence for what felt like centuries, the world moving around me at its usual indifferent speed, and me standing in the middle of it, feeling like a clock that had stopped while everyone else kept on ticking. Nothing is happening, I told myself. And I was wrong. Everything was happening. Everything was building. But building looks identical to stagnation from the inside. That is the cruelest trick time ever plays on the ones who are meant for something that does not exist yet. You kept going anyway. That is the part they will never narrate correctly when they tell your story later. And they will tell it once it is safe and profitable to admire you. They will skip the silence. They will skip the mornings you woke up and had absolutely nothing to confirm that any of this was leading anywhere. They will edit out the doubt. The quiet negotiations you made with yourself at 2 a.m, the ones that sounded like, one more day, just one more day. They will start your story at the moment you arrived, as if arrival had nothing to do with all that invisible, unrewarded walking. But I was there, in the silence, in the dark, in the unremarkable Tuesday afternoons when you did the thing anyway and felt nothing cinematic about it, no swell of music, no slow motion realization, no one watching, just you and the choice and the silence pressing down on both. And here is the twist. That is exactly where you were made. Not in this morning's moment, not in the trigger, the shift, the thing they finally could not ignore. You were made in the silence they will never see, in the rehearsals that had no audience, in the decisions that had no witnesses, in the 10,000 small acts of discipline and belief performed in empty rooms for an empty room's applause. This morning was not your beginning. This morning was your invoice, delivered at last to everyone who had been enjoying your work without paying for it. Now let me tell you something they do not teach in any room that claims to prepare you for a life worth living. Momentum does not feel like momentum while you are inside it. It feels like repetition. It feels like stubbornness. It feels, some days, like a very elaborate form of madness. Why do I keep doing this, you asked yourself. Oh, I heard you ask it. And the answer, the real answer, not the motivational poster answer, is that something in you understood the assignment even when your mind was ready to quit. Something older than your doubt. Something quieter than your fear. Something that simply knew you were not finished and refused to let you act like you were. That something does not have a name. I have tried to name it. I have called it hunger. I have called it obsession. I have called it the particular madness of people who cannot accept an ordinary ending. None of those names fit perfectly. But I know what it feels like from the inside. It feels like a fire that does not care whether you are feeding it or not. It burns regardless. It burned through the silence. It burned through the doubt. It burned through every version of you that tried to settle for something smaller than the truth. And oh, by the time this morning arrived, there was nothing left in you that was flammable except purpose. Here is the ethical twist, the one that makes this complicated, the one I want you to sit with rather than swallow quickly and move past. The silence that built you also built your edge, and edges are not gentle things. The clarity you carried into this morning, the undeniable room-shifting, ceiling-shattering clarity, it did not arrive clean. It arrived sharpened by loss, by betrayal, by the specific loneliness of being underestimated by people you once trusted with your softest parts. And now that edge is yours. The question, the real, uncomfortable 3 a.m. question, is what you intend to do with it. Because the same sharpness that cuts through limitation can, in the wrong mood, on the wrong night, cut through people. I know. Oh, believe me, I know. Use it carefully. Not because they deserve your carefulness, some of them do not, and we both understand that fully, but because you are not building what I built. You are building something that lasts past the burning, something that stands when the smoke clears. And for that, you will need the edge without becoming it. Let me tell you what comes next. Not the version they sell you in the highlight reels and the carefully curated success stories where everything resolves into a clean, golden, made-for-consumption ending. I mean what actually comes next. The real geography of the territory you just stepped into this morning. Because nobody maps this part. Nobody warns you about what it feels like to finally become undeniable. It is lonelier than you expected. Oh, I see you flinch at that. Good. Flinch now, so it does not knock you sideways when it arrives at your door dressed as success and carrying a silence you were not prepared for. The moment you cross a certain threshold, the moment you trigger something in the room that cannot be untriggered, the people around you begin a very quiet, very instinctive process of reorganization. Some move closer, but oh, the ones who move closer now are not always the ones who are with you in the silence. They are the ones who have very good instincts about which direction the light is moving. I learned this the most expensive way possible. I always believed in you, they said, arriving breathless and smiling at a door they had never once knocked on when I needed them to. And I looked at them. Oh, I looked at them with everything I had learned inside the silence. And I laughed. Not to wound them, not this time. I laughed because the alternative was grief. And I had already spent everything I had on that particular currency. Here is the tactical twist. The one that changes how you move from this morning forward. Not everyone arriving now is arriving late. Some of them were simply waiting to understand what they were walking toward. People are afraid, people are profoundly, quietly, desperately afraid of attaching themselves to something unproven. It is not always betrayal. Sometimes it is just the very human terror of being wrong in public. So they waited, they watched, they measured, they recalculated every time you refused to disappear, and now they are here. The question is not whether to let them in. The question is whether you can tell the difference between someone arriving with their hands open and someone arriving with their hands out. That distinction will matter more than anything else in the chapter you are entering now. Pay attention, not with suspicion, not with the particular armor of someone who has been hurt and decided the solution is to feel nothing. That is my armor, and it is magnificent, and it has cost me every soft thing I ever almost had. Do not wear my armor, build your own, lighter, smarter, something that protects the important parts without sealing you entirely inside your own history, because here is what I want for you. And understand how rarely I want anything for anyone. I want you to receive this. The recognition, the room shifting, the doors opening with a suddenness that feels almost suspicious after so long spent knocking. I want you to let it land, not perform gratitude, not shrink back into old smallness out of the reflex of someone who learned early that good things come with hidden costs. Just let it land. Stand inside it without apologizing for it, without immediately scanning the horizon for the thing that will take it away. This morning triggered something, and I have watched enough stories reach this exact inflection point to know what separates the ones who rise from the ones who almost did. It is not talent, it is not timing, it is not even the size of the trigger. It is what you decide this moment means, because meaning is not given. Meaning is chosen. And the most dangerous, most powerful, most quietly revolutionary thing you can do right now is decide that this morning was not a fluke, was not luck, was not a temporary misreading of who you are, but was instead the most accurate thing the world has ever reflected back at you. You are not too much. You were always exactly enough. The rooms were just too small. And this morning, this morning, you stopped trying to fit and started building rooms of your own. They cannot ignore you now, not because you demanded their attention, not because you burned anything down or broke any rules or played the game with someone else's desperation, but because you finally, quietly, completely showed up as yourself. And the world, for all its noise and cruelty and talent for diminishing people, the world does not know what to do with someone who is entirely, unapologetically present. It never has. That is why it always, eventually, has no choice but to bow. So take this morning, hold it, not as a trophy, not as proof to anyone watching. Hold it as a compass, point it forward. And the next time the silence comes, because, it will come again, it always does, remember that you have been here before. In the dark, in the doubt, in the unremarkable Tuesday with no audience and no confirmation, and you kept going, and it built something they could not ignore on a perfectly ordinary morning that turned, without warning, into the beginning of everything. The only thing more dangerous than a person who has nothing left to lose is a person who has finally decided what they are fighting for.